All right. Good morning or good afternoon. I'm not sure when I'm going to put this podcast online, but this is Russ Allman. I am the Director of Communications and Development for the Wenatchee Valley Senior Activity Center, soon to be the Foothills Community Center. And I'm here today with Dr. Steve Kaster. He's one of our board members that we'd like to get to know a little better. And we'll be featuring an article with him in our December newsletter, The Live Wire. But I'm interviewing him today just to get a little bit more background. Thanks for doing this with me today, Steve.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your background. I know you used to be a doctor. Maybe you could tell me a little bit more about your background.
Yeah. I've been retired now for about 3 years. And I actually met my wife, Marissa Baskin, in medical school. And we moved here to Wenatchee 34 years ago, right out of our training. And my background's in family medicine. That was what my training was in specifically. And we started here right out of training, and so we've had no desire to go anywhere else, and so we were able to witness the transition. What started off as Wenatchee Valley Clinic, and then Wenatchee Valley Medical Center, Wenatchee Valley Hospital and Clinics, Confluence, and so we've been through the whole change and transition. I've never had any desire to go anywhere else. I think the first 15 years here I did urgent care in the walk-in clinic, and then the second half of my career here, second 15 years, I was the medical director of the clinical research department, and specifically helped to run clinical trials for new therapeutic drugs and even more so new vaccines.
Yeah. Where are you from originally?
Originally from San Jose, California.
Okay. So you moved here mid-20...
34 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and nice. We, like I said, we've never had any desire to, and Marissa's still working she's a dermatologist here, and we have never had any desire to go anywhere else. And down in Wenatchee, San Jose is a pretty big, the whole Bay Area is obviously, big city life, and had never lived anywhere like a town like Wenatchee of its size. And so it's been really nice we've really valued this community as far as being able to, it took me 7 minutes to get to work with 2 traffic signals. And really, it was a great place to raise our one child, Sarah, who's 30 years old now. And really trusted the school system, and it was really nice place to raise a kid. And so that's been one of the virtues, I think, of living here. And it amuses me too, because a lot of my friends and colleagues, as they went through the process, have had kids that after high school, they left to go work, or they left to go to college or whatever, and said, "Oh, I'm not coming back to Wenatchee." And amazing how many of them do.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those kids end up coming back.
Yep.
Because they, get a taste of bigger city life, and taking an hour to get to work and an hour to get back home. So it's been, I think it's been good fortune for us to live in this kind of a community.
Yeah, I think that's I've mentioned that before too. There's a lot of kids that are excited to leave and can't wait to leave, to go to college or go to the big city or whatever. Right. And then it gets to be about late 20s, early 30s, and they decided that they're going to settle down and have a family, and they're like, Wenatchee wasn't so bad after all.
No, I know.
Yeah, I kind of came from the opposite because I came from Upper Michigan. My hometown had 10,000 people, less now because it's actually shrunk. But there really was nothing to go back to for people that had an education, and so there's a brain drain there. A lot of people, when they leave, there's just there are some exceptions, but quite a few of us went somewhere else. I went pretty far. Most of them stay in the Midwest, but I moved west with my wife after we finished grad school, and we chose the Pacific Northwest. It was part of our choice, so it wasn't a big surprise. But I do think Wenatchee for me too is has been the place where I felt most like at home in the other from the places that I've lived, because it has a lot of similarities to where I grew up. Just has more hills, a little bigger town, but very very similar, and I've enjoyed it here as well.
Well, one of the first things I noticed after moving here was that we'd be out, I don't know, grocery store or wherever, and where I'm from, all the places that I've lived before, if I saw somebody in the distance and think, oh, I think I recognize that person as somebody I know, and then get a little closer. No, I don't know that person. And then here, if you're out and about and you see somebody you think well, it's probably the person that you think you know.
Well, not only that, but people call you out by name a lot.
Yeah.
You got to be on your toes. That happens to me. Is between being here at the senior center and being fairly visible, and I shoot I'm the home game photographer for the Wenatchee Wild. So a couple thousand people see me on the ice every week. So people recognize me and they come up and like, "Hey, Russ, how's it?" It's like, okay, I think I know you. And I'm not great with names either, so that probably doesn't help. But I mean, it's a small enough town where people actually know people, and but big enough that there's choices and things to do. I mean, I think the young people may not think so, but I mean, at least we, if you want to go out to eat someplace and there's some kind of food that you like, usually there's someplace here that has it. You just don't have 10 choices.
Right.
You might have one or two. But anyway, so when did you first find out about the senior center?
My mother-in-law, Joyce Baskin, she really connected with the senior center, and she was a familiar face behind the front desk. She worked here and volunteered here for a number of years. And she was the one that approached me. And I've been on the board now for between 12 and 13 years, I think. And she approached me way back then and asked if I would consider being a board member. And I think at the time they were feeling, one, I think it's good to have a good certain percentage of people on the board who are still in the workforce. And there was nobody at the time that was on the board that was representative or representing, the medical center. And so, which is a big medical center relative to the size of the town. And so she approached me, and I told her that I'd be give it a try, and I've been on the board ever since then.
And so, did you start out as a member at large and then move into a regular position, or?
No, I've been a member at large the whole time.
You've just been living large the whole time.
But that's the role I've been playing.
So you've been through 4 executive directors?
No, actually,
3.
no, because Dave Tosh started the same year I did, and so it was mainly Dave was the one I affiliated with throughout the years, and now Lisa Blair. So there was a lot of changes before Dave, and so I just got started at the tail end of that. So it was nice to have that continuity with Dave and now Lisa.
Yeah, it's certainly been interesting. I've been involved with the senior center since for about 12 years too, and it's been interesting to see the change in the board has been significant. I mean, there are a lot of changes that are happening here now that were totally off the table 10 years ago.
Yes,
like our name change.
Yeah.
Because that was something that's been approached before, and there was a pretty vociferous movement against, from what I heard.
Yes.
The last time around.
No, there was, and it had been brought up several times since I've been on the board. And it's and it should be a process that's very well thought out, because it's a big deal, and it's especially for a lot of the members that the membership that's been here for a while, and so it was not taken lightly. There was a lot of thought that went into it, and there were driving forces that couldn't be ignored to do that. And I won't go into detail on that, but I thought it has been handled really, really well.
Not the first time we've changed our name either.
No,
I think this is the fourth or fifth time that it's changed.
Yeah,
this is the most significant, I think.
But it is, and it's been a while since there was a name change too. So,
well, and I think a lot of the earlier name changes were, in a way, trying to address the same issues that we are now. We're just making a more significant step to make a more permanent improvement.
Yes. Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with our mission to support the senior community.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really important to get across. Maybe that's something you could touch on a little bit.
No, that's absolutely true. And we actually had an ad hoc committee. It was probably about maybe about 8 years ago. I can't remember exactly when that was. And we were just looking. It was mainly just to look into perspectives and look into the demographics of our membership. And we're thinking, well, maybe we need to change things to attract. Back then, attract the baby boomers and then newer generations. And so we met, and several times we got the input from the membership, and we looked into we actually looked into a lot of other senior centers throughout the country, and to see what they're doing as far as that goes. How are they attracting baby boomers and so forth. And some had these name changes, and some of them were pretty crazy name changes. And back then there was the thought, well, let's remove the term senior. And back then, when we were looking into it, most of the membership said, we don't want to change that. We like that. It was a badge of honor to have that term senior in there. And so we listened, and we thought, we've got good membership right now. Here's the consensus of the membership. And so back then we decided, let's not, if it's not broken, let's not fix it. And so that was the decision that we came up with back then. And that was after a lot of thought, and we had a good response from the membership. And I haven't seen meetings that were that big with the membership and the board, or at least that board committee. And so at the time we decided, well, let's leave it alone. And now things have changed, not just with there were a lot of different issues as to why we felt that we needed to change the name. And some of it had to do with how we get our funding, because labels and names are are a lot more important right now than they were a decade ago. And we couldn't ignore that. And so that was one example of one of the reasons why we felt that it was time to look into this again. And again, we listened to the membership. Impossible to please everybody, and there were some people that were not happy about changing the name, and but based on the overall consensus and the driving force, we felt that that's what we needed to do to maintain the stature and the survivability of the center.
You know, one thing I've noticed in the community too, just being out as a you know, I do a lot of business and community networking and outreach, and there are a lot of, you know, even though we have over 2,000 members, there are over 150,000 people that live in Chelan and Douglas counties, and about a third of that population is over 50, and there are a lot of those that don't even know we're here. There's of the ones that do know, a lot of them don't know what senior center means. And the assumption is that it's a rest home, that we have beds.
Yes.
And I mean, I've talked to people that are well known in the community, won't name names, but that are well known, have been here their whole lives, and have asked me that question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think that says something. And then also, I think there is another group of people that are over 50, and you know, I'm one of them, but you know, that are still trying to come to terms with the fact that we're considered seniors.
Right.
And we don't want to use that word. I've met people in their 80s that don't want to come here because they don't want to hang out with the old people. It's like, I have news for you. You know, and it's just that perception to them, this picture of this picture of being somehow, you know, inactive or something, or wheelchair bound. I don't know what the picture is that people have in their head once they use that word, and it's, you know, totally not true, because I know people that are. I'm going to go out and interview the head of the ping pong group this week. I've talked to her before. She's 99 and she's still playing and very active. And apparently she beats young people pretty handily on a regular basis too. I've met people playing pickleball like that too, that are, you know, in their 80s that can kick my butt, and it's because they're, you know, I mean, they're not going to outrun me, but they're, you know, their skill level is very high, and, you know, and they're highly coordinated, you know. So I think that's I think it's one of the things that was one of the factors that we brought in.
Yes.
You know, but you know, changing our name isn't going to really change our focus. I mean, we do want to be more inclusive of all ages, and we do definitely want to encourage more multi-generational opportunities, because that has a positive influence on all generations.
Right.
And I've seen that firsthand here from events that we've done.
That was one of the driving forces too,
Yeah.
of the name change.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you're right, though. The term senior is really variable from one person to the other. And I think what will happen is, you know, a lot of times people just refer to this. They don't go by the full name. It's called the Senior Center. And so I think that people will adapt and develop their own nickname for it when they're talking to their friends and family. Oh, I'm going over to the Senior Center or the Community Center, or whatever they want to call it, they can call it.
Yep.
It's not a
They
name
know where it
that
is.
they're being forced to use.
Yep.
The membership can call it. They can call it what they want to call it. And because that you're right. You know, that word senior means it has for different people has a different definition.
Yeah, I think I think it'll be still known as the senior center for a long time.
Yeah.
Regardless of what we officially call it.
Yeah,
I think a
you're
lot of
probably
them,
right.
especially the older generations.
Yeah.
And as a case in point, too, one of the organizations that we looked at earlier in this process was the Edmonds Senior Center, which when they rebuilt their facility, they called it the Edmonds Waterfront Center. It's a beautiful new facility, and they did a very similar thing. It's open to all ages, but it was still had that senior focus, and everybody still calls it the Senior Center.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter how fancy and
Right.
yeah, it's still a senior center to most people there. So I suspect it's going to be a very similar thing here.
I do too. Yeah.
And what aside, I mean the name change is obviously probably one of the bigger decisions that you've made as a board member. What other changes do you think we should be making as we evolve?
Well, collectively, I think that what's foremost of importance right now is that we expand the facility, the physical facility, which is what we've been working on it for a while. And I think our expectations are realistic. We don't expect to be able to have a new building up and running, immediately. And I have not been as directly involved. I'm not on either the committees that are involved in fundraising for the new building, but those that have been very, very diligent and fact finding, and we've got a good. The people involved have a broad spectrum of their background, and I think right now we've got a very knowledgeable crew on how to go about doing this. So to me, that's right now is of utmost importance, because once we get the newer facility, because we are crunched for space right now, then we'll be able to continue on with our current goals and activities, but not only carry on with what we're doing, but to broaden it so we have a lot more, once we have that facility, we'll have a lot more ability to carry out some of the other goals. What I'd like to see, once we are able to accommodate the rooms and facilities and so forth, I'd like to see us broaden venues in which membership can learn more about being self-sufficient and be, as a physician, I'd like to see people become more self-sufficient from a medical background, from a medical standpoint, I should say, and to be able to help educate, and like what you do, for instance, when you're helping one-on-one, you're mentoring membership and even non-members on how to navigate MyChart and how to navigate, things online in which they can get some more medical knowledge. And I'd like to be able to expand that, being able to maybe teach people how to do home blood pressure monitoring, home glucose monitoring, learn more about individualized fitness programs and things like that. I'd kind of like to see that once we're able to broaden, get into a more a nicer facility and have the space to do that.
Yeah. Some of these tools that are available now for those types of purposes are really, really something. I mean, from the iWatch, for example, or Apple Watch. I just want to call it iWatch. The Apple Watch has the ability to monitor a number of biometric functions and falls included.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I have an Android watch. I have a Galaxy, watch. And occasionally I hit my hand on the table and it asked me if I fell. So I have to tell it, no, please don't call 911. I am fine.
And what if you don't answer?
Well, I think you actually have to. The way they have it set, you have to respond to it before it will make a call.
But if you don't, it means you're either don't want to or you're unconscious.
Yeah, I know. I think they recognize that it's not that reliable yet. But I mean, some of the tools that we've got now are fantastic tools for seniors to use. But there is that technology barrier of being able to understand the technology and use it. My chart, I mean, I'm a user of my chart, and it saves me a lot of time, in communicating with doctors on my own time, checking out test results, looking at historical data, double checking, which drugs I've been on, so I know what to ask. I think those are all important to being able to be more self-sufficient.
I think so too. And my chart actually, when it first came out, I was skeptical. And I think though that it's really evolved in a really good way. And I think that there probably is a lot of initial, and you're probably even more aware of this than I am, but some initial trepidation and concern and fear that people just, if they're not tech savvy, that they can't navigate it. But once they just make that first step, that plunge, I think most people realize that it's a lot, from the feedback I get, I think most people that were initially guarded about it are a lot more comfortable using it. And it's the direction that we need to go in, because try making a phone call. It's just not something, and I'm not just talking about our community, but from the health system nationally. And you just can't get on the phone anymore and talk to the nurse that in your doctor's office. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't work that way anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to communicate. But I'd also like to see more, I'd also like to be able to mentor people on where to go online to get medical information that they can trust. Because right now it is so contaminated by things that are seen on social media, things that are seen online, people trying to sell you things, political agendas, that I don't know if many people really know. Where do you go if you really want to know, to get good information, good medical information? And by good medical information, I mean information that's driven by the data, that's evidence-based. And so there are a few good websites out there that you can do that. So I'd like to, and I can tell you about those too, but I'd like people to get more interested in getting their information from something that's reliable than hearsay or things like this they see on social media. It's not always obvious that somebody's trying to sell you something.
And for people, for people, I see it on both ends of the spectrum, because I see a lot of kids take information at face value without vetting things, because they weren't taught how to vet information.
Right.
But on the other end, you have a lot of seniors that I think traditionally they would know, through traditional media, what's vetted and what's not. But things have changed so much, and there's this fire hose of information coming in over the internet to be able to understand which ones you can trust. Mm-hmm. And that some sources are even targeting specific groups to misinform them.
And you're solicited, and depending on where you've gone online is what you're going to start to see popping up in your email and
Yeah.
in your text and in your Facebook or whatever.
It follows you around once you start choosing things. Yep. Yeah.
And so it's hard to know what to trust and what not to trust.
Yeah. Thought I'd ask you too. So I know you volunteer here as well. There are a lot of our board members do also volunteer. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the areas where you help out here.
Yeah, I've enjoyed volunteering as a board member, and also I help out in the kitchen on Tuesdays for the lunch. Yeah, I enjoy doing that, and I've been doing that since I retired. So I've been doing that about 3 years, and it's I get a lot of it's in the kitchen, it's washing dishes and sometimes helping with food prep, and but more just washing dishes and cleaning stuff up and things like that. And I just get pleasure out of doing that. And board members volunteer, but a lot of the membership volunteers too. And I think most people that do volunteer get a sense of self-satisfaction from it.
Yeah, we do have a huge volunteer corps here.
Yeah.
And that's really critical to our function as an organization. Mm-hmm. So did you wash dishes to get through med school, or is this the first time?
Oh yeah, actually, one of the first jobs I had, I worked at was in between just late high school and one of the first jobs I had in the kitchen was late high school, and I was worked at a Marriott Great America in San Jose, and just when the hotel first opened. So that's where I started working in the kitchen and washing dishes. And now at the other end of my career, I'm doing the same thing at the senior centers.
A little different perspective when you do it later, though.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to touch on that I haven't asked you about?
No, I don't think so. Russ. Just know that in what I've witnessed throughout the 12, 13 years that I've been on the board is just that the value that this place has, especially, and first and foremost would be allowing a safe place for membership to just simply come and congregate. And for a lot of the members, they've had unexpected events in their lives, or they've lost a spouse or whatever. And it's just a nice place where people can come together. And simple venues here, like just donuts and coffee 4 days a week. And then again, not to mention all the different activities, the clubs and organizations and things like that. So I think that it is an extremely valuable part of our community. I'd like to see it continue to thrive.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we've been discovering as a part of medicine is the whole health aspect, and how important the social interaction is as part of our daily lives, but particularly for seniors.
Yes.
Because in a lot of cases, in earlier generations, we tended to stay in the same communities where we grew up, and so we had that extended family around to have communication with. But as we've expanded over time, it's not unusual, but it's less likely that people are going to be living in the same place as their kids or their grandkids. So it's really important to have
that's true.
opportunities to get out and do things with other people of any age, but also people your own age, so that you stay social and interactive and not in front of a TV all day.
And this place does definitely provide that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, thank you for doing this with me today.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
We're gradually going through all our board members and getting an opportunity to know them better. And it's one of the things that we kind of wanted to do as a series this year was to make sure that all of our members had an opportunity to get to know their board members better. So I want to thank you for doing this with me.
You're
today.
welcome. It's appreciated.